Hello, ladies, and welcome to Real Life Women's Ministry. I'm Dr. Venessa Ellen, and I'm so excited to bring you part 2 of a wonderful conversation I was having on coffee with my pastor's wife, with a dear friend of mine, Valerie. We've been talking about what does it mean to be a Christian married woman. Now listen, if you missed part 1, just click right here and go back and take a look. We talked about so many great things, but if you caught part 1 and you're all caught up, here we go, part 2. Join me right now.
And this is more just, outside the questions that I know people might have, they might wonder.
Yeah.
Sometimes we can get really caught up in the ministry work, and then the marriage can start to be affected. So is there a time, how would you know when it's time to say, okay, we need to kind of reassess where we are or what we're doing? And
I don't know. So, okay, let's address that. Let's go around the corner, kind of address that. We are to use our gifts in the local body. I don't believe that God gives us anything that takes us away from Him and serving Him. Not a marriage, not children, not anything that would take us from Him. Almost to the point where we're worshiping the gift He gave versus the giver. You know what I mean? Like, we're supposed to get about the Great Commission and evangelism and discipleship, and most of that is done through the local church. So I don't know that we're ever supposed to really shelve that per se. It has to move around. It's seasonal when you can do. What I really believe is happening when we start to have marital problems is because there's some type of selfish ambition in there, James. There's something in there where we've allowed either the world of flesh or the devil to get about, and we're not seeing things the way we should be seeing them biblically, and thus there's a problem in the home. Am I making any sense?
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And I know there's some women who might be in a situation where, maybe the husband or the wife might not be really as interested in serving.
Yeah. Yes.
So how?
That's a maturity thing.
Yeah.
So that's a teaching maturity thing. One, the church needs to really teach on using your gifts and being productive and fruitful for the Lord. Because listen, this world is dying and passing away, and marriage is not going to exist in heaven. Yeah. We know that. So sometimes we put all this focus and energy into marriage. Not that we're not supposed to build and invest in the marriage, but that's not necessarily the whole totality of it all, right? Yeah. God put us here for a reason other than just marriage. Right. And evangelism, the Great Commission is what we're about. People are dying and going to hell. And I know I sound like a 90-year-old woman, right? That's what my grandmother used to say, people die, go to hell. And I used to never understand it. But now I fully understand, life is greater than me and my pleasures, my desires, my wants, my happiness. Not that we don't deal with the marriage. I'm not demeaning or lowering or anything marriage, but I'm saying sometimes it has become an idol.
For sure. Yeah.
So I think what you're speaking to is, yes, there are times when there's a maturity level. The woman might be mad that he's serving too much. He might be mad that she's serving too much. So what I would ask them is, when you're not serving in your local church, are you really serving in your home? He should be so full of you that he's glad that you gone for a minute. You know what I mean? Like he gets a moment, but he's glad to see you come back. Are you really fulfilling the things that you need to fulfill at home?
Yeah.
And that's on both sides.
Yeah. Yes. No, that's huge. And it makes so then it takes me kind of back to the Proverbs 31 woman again, because that kind of changed my whole perspective. Like I said, when I grew up, it was all about be a Proverbs 31 woman, but I didn't really understand what that really looked like, honestly, until you explained it. And you might have already explained it in previous videos. But if you could maybe.
No, we haven't. I don't think we've talked about that. First of all, I looked at it as, listen, this is a mother's conversation to a son, you know, which is so important because, like you said, we're raising another generation, hopefully, of believers. You need to tell them what to look for. This is a mom talking to him, hey, dude, first of all, about your kingship. You can't be tossing it back and doing all this stuff because that's going to blur your decision-making ability.
Yeah.
And now, about this woman. She should be like this and like that. And so it's a view of what a woman should look like a wife should look like. What I take from Proverbs 31 initially is that she did all kinds of stuff. You call her a realtor if you want to call her a realtor. You know, she was a businesswoman. She had her own. She was the first. I got by my own. You know, she was the original, right? But it always was for the purpose of her home. She rose early. Everything she did, they didn't have to worry about the seasons because she took care of that. It wasn't like she was off in her career and her family was lacking or suffering, or she was off at her church and her family was lacking or suffering. Her first priority was her home. And I love the view of it because it doesn't say you can't go do this, that, or that. It doesn't say you can't go work outside the home. But is your home better off?
Yeah.
Because you are doing all those things. Like, or is your home getting the leftovers?
Right.
That's what I take away from Proverbs 31, that who's benefiting from, you know, you got 6 figures and 10 degrees, and who's benefiting from that?
Right. Right. It goes back to is this for self or is this for?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So back to your question of ministry, what happens when somebody's mad because you're doing ministry? It ain't the ministry that's the problem. It's not that you're serving at the church or you're bringing cakes, baking cakes and all. That's not the problem. The problem is you might not be baking some cakes for him. And every time he sees a cake run out the door, it's for someone else. And I'm using cakes, but I'm just saying, what have you done for him lately?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, that's true.
Because if he is fully satisfied, then he's more than happy to see his wife do what God has put in her.
Yeah.
Now, are there selfish husbands who he could be fully satisfied and he's just gluttonous? Yes. Yes. I say you just pray, and then there may come a point where you may have to let the leadership know that, listen, we've talked and I've tried to get on the same page with my husband and we're not on the same page with this. I've done everything I know that I'm supposed to do. And you may have to let the husband know, I think we need to talk to somebody because we're not seeing eye to eye on this and I'm about to lose my mind. So, in order not to cut you, no, just kidding. I'm calling pastor. I'm calling the pastor.
Right. No, that's the wise thing.
Yeah, you know, like before you get yourself in trouble.
Right.
And let me say, as a pastor's wife, we don't always know when it's gotten to that level. So there may be ladies who are out there and they're just like, listen, I've had it up to here with him because he's overburdening in his leadership style or his role. He's taking this too far. I don't know what else to do with this. You need to wave that flag again because we can't know without it.
Yeah. So what I keep hearing you say that is just ringing to me would be it's really important to be in a church, in a local church. Because if you're in there by yourself. Yeah, you suffer in silence, and God didn't create us to do that. Yeah.
You know, we are not to forsake the assembling of the saints. So as long as it is called today, what is that, Hebrews 13:3 maybe? That we may encourage one another.
Yeah.
I don't think this time away from each other has helped us over the last 2 years. I think it has hurt us.
Yeah.
Because honestly, I can't say I know completely what's happening in your life or her life. And I can't say that anybody knows completely what's happening in my life. That's not good.
Yeah.
That's not good.
That's so true. So how, I think you had hit on, it made me think of another question and now it just went blank. So, we were talking about Proverbs 31 woman and about it's okay to have a job. It's okay to, work outside the home as long as your home is not being neglected. So obviously, my story, I feel like it's kind of similar to yours, but not, as far as like working, doing your thing, and then kind of felt like it was time to take a step back and put more into my home.
Yes.
And I will say it has been a blessing, and it also has been very difficult to, how do I say, stand in that. There's a lot of
cultural.
A lot of, it's very hard to discuss that with people. Say. It's very hard to say what I'm doing without feeling like insignificant. Like you feel insignificant.
Yes.
You can feel burdened down. You can feel overwhelmed. There's so many things you can feel. I guess what would you say to that?
Yeah. Okay. So this world is not our home. We are strangers in a foreign land. One, I would say, don't expect everyone to understand, especially those that aren't even believers.
Yeah. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
It's not,
Don't expect those who are not kind of in line with you theologically to fully understand what you're doing. And guess what? It doesn't even matter if they do. But you've got to come to that point. I know there are times when I felt like, well, I'm just not going to talk about it because, you know,
right, I don't want to get.
I'm just not trying to have this conversation again with somebody else to go, you're not what?
Right.
So you're not working?
Right.
Well, what are you doing?
Right. Yeah. Those. Yeah.
Did you get a meal? Did you see them floors are clean? What you mean? What am I doing? You know, I always say I'm more busy now that I'm home than I was when I was working. Like if you really are managing the home right, oh, you're busy from sun up to sundown.
For sure.
Completely
For sure.
busy. So one, don't let the culture influence you. It's not your culture. This is not our home, right? We're strangers. We're aliens in this land. Second, you got to be okay. Get to that place where you're good with what God has said and what you and your husband are doing, and it don't matter about the rest of the world.
Yeah.
And then third, also get some like-minded people around you who you can't get encouragement from just any old Mary Jane. You're going to have to call up somebody else and be like, girl, I just talked to so-and-so and she just, and, you know, so just reaffirm me. Help me.
Yeah.
Help me remember why I'm doing what I'm doing. You know, we need to encourage one another. We're back to that. It does take time, though.
Yeah.
I remember somebody was saying, it was years ago when they said they ask you, what's your job? Like even now. So I got laid off 3 years ago, whatever. We have our own business and everything else. And I'm doing all of this. But I went somewhere the other day and it said employer. And I stopped like, Jesus. Like, I didn't know what to put. And I admit, I felt some kind of way for just about a moment. And then I was like, you don't define me. I don't have to have nothing on this piece of paper. I am God's child. I can give you 900 things that I'm doing.
Right.
They don't qualify in your understanding of employer.
Yeah.
But it takes time.
Yeah. So what are some scriptures to meditate on when you're feeling that way, when you're struggling through that?
Yeah. I think I would, more than just some random verses, I would really go back to Genesis and understand God's design and how important it was, and to understand that He created each of them in His image. It took the both of them to carry forth the mission that God had.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? It's going to take the both of y'all to carry forth what God is doing in your house with your kids and so on and so forth. If you remember, Eve threw everything off.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everything. Had she just been contented and stayed in line with what she was supposed to do and how she was supposed to do it, the rest of us might not be suffering. You know? And so I wouldn't say, yes, I could give you 100 other scriptures in other places, but I think God's design will comfort you more.
Yeah.
You know?
It's encouraging. It is encouraging.
Because, you know, if you reflect on the great designer who created all of this and everything that he created is good, then you can get up from that, skip and hop and run on.
Right.
It's like,
Yeah.
What else do I need?
Right. Yeah. It makes me think of, I'm trying to put to memory, I think it's Colossians 3:1-4. Don't quote me, but it is talking about, you know, setting your mind on things above, not on the things on this earth. Because I've literally just been that whole thing.
And then add
hidden in Him, and
think on what is pure, what is lovely, what is of good. Yes,
exactly. So, you definitely will say it's, you know, having young children and dealing with so many different emotions and things, and it's like a whole lot of prayer. You need a whole lot of prayer.
And it's a whole lot of renewing the mind.
Yes.
Be careful to allow your mind to drift into things that your heart is establishing. When it starts to drift and then you find yourself like, whew, these thoughts and these feelings, and okay, wait, I've started to think and ponder some stuff I shouldn't have. I need to root that out.
No, I mean, I definitely taking every thought captive has been huge, because and a lot of times you don't even realize, because you're just in the moment and you're doing all these things, and then you find yourself getting, you know, feeling a certain way or reacting a certain way or being a certain way towards your kids or towards your husband, and you're like, okay, whoa, what am I thinking about? Because a lot of times as a mother, as a wife, you're just going. That's why I like my new thing. People are like, how are you doing? Let me think about it, because I haven't really thought about that today.
Right.
You know, because you're just moving. You're just moving.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes, I would completely agree.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I did have a question. Another scripture I've been trying to meditate on is, I think you mentioned it, 1 Peter 3, 1-4. And the part about having a gentle and quiet spirit as a Christian wife, and how that's precious in the sight of God. And for me, that's just huge, because I was like, is this precious to him? This must be really important.
Yeah.
So what is that like? I feel like there's so many things that are put out there, like what that means. So what does that mean practically for me as a Christian wife? Like,
I like to start with what it doesn't mean.
Okay.
It's not the you know, the little wife that's
you
know, and she's always like
no,
because that's so not me, right?
Yeah.
I think it is quiet, meaning undisturbing. You're undisturbing to God's design, God's truth, God's order in the home, meaning you're not running around like a screaming banshee, and you're not the God of your house, and you're not just tearing it up inside out, you know, tearing your own house down with your own hands. It's a gentle and quiet spirit before the Lord, meaning you are submissive and humble and bowing to God and His order, His word, His rule over your life and in your marriage and in your home. Which may mean I don't always agree with everything that happens, but I don't have to always agree. But I can disagree without being disagreeable. That's the difference, I think. Gentle and quiet is not necessarily in my outward. I feel as though it's more in my inward. Meaning, because out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaketh. So it's already rolling around in there. Now, whether it comes out screaming or it comes out, you know, I really hate you. You know, it's still the same.
Unloving,
it's still unloving, ungodly, and unkind. So that's the way I would sum that up.
Okay.
And I think it needs more further study. I haven't studied that in a good while, but that would be my basic answer right now.
Yeah. And then in that same token, as far as, you know, because understanding our role as a wife, as far as like approaching our husband.
Yes.
As far as like, it's okay to ask questions.
Yes.
You know, as far as like asking questions, making suggestions, I guess, or just trying to like remind our husbands of things, because, you know, sometimes, you know, you're trying to be helpful. How can you do that without, you know, being overbearing or stepping on toes? Or, you know?
I have had to learn over the years how. And every husband is different.
Right.
But, you know, sometimes it's wording like, honey, would you consider? Or I was thinking about this. I'm not sure how you feel about it, but what do you feel about this? Or what do you think about this? Or would you, I use would you consider quite a bit.
Yeah.
Like,
but I like that. I remember you telling me that before. So it's good to be reminded.
Yeah, because
like
would you consider sounds a whole lot better than I think you ought to.
Yeah.
You
or
know.
even will you do, it's still, you know, because it's still, I'm trying to be cautious of not, I'm trying to make sure that I'm okay with not, you know, getting the response. Say, will you do? I already come in at like, I really hope you do this.
Yes, right.
I'm going to be really sad if you say no. You know, versus like, if I say, will you consider, it's like, there's a consideration. It gives them a chance to consider. Versus just like.
And then when they say no, I'm not opposed to saying, hey, well, help me. Can you help me understand how you got to a no in this?
What if I
still may not agree.
Right.
You know, and then I still would say to my husband, like yesterday, we had a conversation about something that I was like, yeah, but, bruh. No, I was just like, I would like a moment, if you don't mind, for me to kind of explain how I got to my conclusion that I think is different than your conclusion.
Yeah.
And I gave him how I got there, and he said, oh, I can see how you got there. I don't agree, but I can see. And I'm all like, what you mean? I just spent 15 minutes explaining this to you. You should agree now. No, he doesn't agree.
Right.
But in the end, he told me, no, I need you to know that I agree with your, what did he say? He said, I agree with your premise. I'm just going to address it differently.
Okay.
And he said, it's a preference issue. He reminded me the way to walk it out is a preference thing. And I had to back down. It's a preference. And I'm to submit to his preferences. He's not to submit to mine.
Yeah.
It's a heart of wanting to embrace. Now, even if he's wrong, which he might be in this, but anyway, whatever. But even if he's wrong, I still got to trust that he's talking with God and walking with God, and God's going to, and what if he is wrong? We'll both grow up together.
Right. Yeah. So I was going to say, everybody doesn't have a husband also that's, you know, so eloquent and, you know.
Yeah, but he didn't start there and I didn't start here. I said it's going to be 25 years in December.
Right.
Yeah. We're blessed that nobody's cut each other.
Right.
There's been no bloodshed. We're all good. But there have been some really rough days. We call it the young warrior syndrome. Like the first 5 to 10 years of marriage, the husband's trying to learn how to lead, and the wife's trying to learn how to follow, and they're both doing it wrong.
Yeah.
Now, I will say it's important. The first 15 years of our marriage or so, we had a counselor that we talked to on a regular, meaning some pastor that, you know, we just call our good friends that we got together with. I think it's important to have, we used to call them check-ins and tune-ups. And I feel like this is where I will own up. I feel like as a church, me and my husband, we've fallen off because there have been so many other things we're trying to get done with the church. Our marriage ministry is lacking a little bit. I feel like we need to get back to checking in and really doing some of those tune-ups because sometimes it's just a little tweak.
Yeah.
You know, just a little tweak about what you think, what you believe, what you think, what you believe, and then we all back and we're happy, you know. But I will agree, sometimes they don't know what they need. They don't know.
Yeah.
So I just kind of back off.
Okay.
Especially if it's a stressful time for my husband. And I'll ask, hey, what can I do to help you? How can I? And he's like, you know. And when it's inaudible, you know, then I go on by my business.
Right.
And then I just wait. And he'll come back and he'll say, I was thinking about what you said. You could do da-da-da. Okay, I got you, boy.
Right.
I got you.
Give him time to.
Time.
Like you were saying, you need to know your husband. So I'm learning. It obviously, I think everybody at our church knows that my husband is a big processor.
Yes.
Huge. Like, I think it's just kind of hit me more so now.
Yeah.
About that. So I've tried to be better at not being pushy and like just give him time. You know, just hey, I'm just, you know, and I don't know if you told me this or not, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but sometimes it's just okay. I'm trying to figure out how to ask things, but as far as like how much time do you need to think this through? Because for me sometimes it'll be like, okay, so I don't want to nag,
right,
so I'm trying to ask,
right,
but then it's like been a while,
you
know what I'm saying,
so
then it's like approaching with caution.
So like if I ask you on Monday and then I say, well, would you be okay if I come back and ask you about this on Friday? If you haven't gotten back to me, would it be okay if like we schedule a time, like a date night or talk night on Friday night to kind of go over this? Then he can anticipate that he needs to have an answer by Friday. You know what I mean? And he can either say, yes, I'll be ready to talk about that by Friday, or I'm going to need the next Friday. But either way, you know, he's now committed to a time to communicate. So you could set the date, see if he'll agree to it, and then just go for that.
Yeah. And then be ready.
Be ready. Yeah. That way, you're not just aimlessly waiting for some response that may or may not come until Jesus returns, you know? And he will feel better, too, because in his mind, he knows, I need to have an answer for her by Friday.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Even if the answer is no, I still need to have an answer for her by Friday.
Right. Yeah. No, that's good. Okay, so just a couple more. So, no, maybe one more. Okay, so based on your experience around husbands, because you know you and your husband done biblical counseling, you've been in different ministries. I don't know, maybe if your husband or pastor has expressed this to you, but what would you say that men desire most from their wives?
I didn't want to give a knee-jerk reaction. My knee-jerk reaction was going to be...
Oh! Well, we know that. That's a given. Yeah.
You know, intimacy.
I was going to go there a little deeper with that. I decided not to go too deep this time with that one. Yes.
That was going to be my answer, that they desire companionship. Yeah. And they want to know that you're for them and not against them, and that they can trust you. You know, Scripture talks about his heart, trust in her. They want to know, because the world will beat them up so badly that when they come home, it's a safe place.
Yeah.
That's been my experience, that you're his confidant.
Yeah.
You know, and his secrets are safe with you. And I think the other thing is that they want us to not really make them look bad in public. You know, I've seen a lot of that. And they want to know that even when they're wrong, it's okay.
Yeah.
You, of all people, are not going to be the one condemning them. Yeah. That's what I would say.
Yeah.
That somebody, their job or whomever may tear them down. People in the church may tear them down, but they know that when they fall and when they fail, and they will, because they're not perfect, that you will be like, it's all right, boo.
Yeah.
It's all right. We're going to clean it up. It's okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Versus, I told you if you had done this to me, we wouldn't be in this position, you know.
Yeah.
Well, okay. All right. We all know you're right.
Right.
But now that we're here, can we just clean up the milk?
Yeah.
And then, you know, now if he spills it 5 times, wave that flag, ma'am. Wave that flag. Call your pastor. Call somebody. Go back to your local church. Now listen, we done cleaned up the same milk 5 times. Yeah. Well, thank you so much. This has been really good. Thank you, ladies, for joining us. This has been great. This has been my time with Miss Valerie. This is Coffee with My Pastor's Wife. I certainly hope you've enjoyed it. And join us next time. I'm Dr. Venessa Ellen. See you soon.